This morning, we left the desert laboratory in Tucson, Arizona. The lab sits on Tumamoc Hill, a popular recreation area. We headed to Sonora, Mexico, where we rendezvoused with archaeologists from the National Institute of Archeology and History in Hermosillo. I've never been on any kind of scientific expedition. This is my journal of what it was like. We're stuck in the sand, and one of our trucks has an overheating radiator. And we're in one of the most remote places in North America. But this gives us time to explore, and there is always something interesting to look at. We get unstuck, and the radiator cools down, and then a few minutes later, we get stuck again, which is always a good opportunity to look at plants or look at the sunset.
Pedro, do you see that line, that dark blue?
Yeah.
Right? So that is Earth's shadow.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, think about it. So right after sunset.
I mean, that makes sense, but...
And then boom.
Whoa!
Yeah, how cool is that?
Eventually, we make it to our destination and set up camp. In the morning, I see this prickly poppy blooming next to my tent. It's a flower I know well, and it makes me feel at home. I even water it.
So this is a aerial overview of kind of the core site, and this shows our last field season a year ago when we were doing excavations. This right there is where the Clovis Point was found, and then here this is the vicinity of where the mammoth remains were found, including molars and tusk remnants.
This is a site where 10,000 years ago, human beings coexisted with megafauna, like mammoth, species that are now extinct. The archaeologists are using drones to survey the area, and the topic of drones in documentary comes up. I say I think drone shots are overused for the most part, and they represent such an inhuman point of view. But sometimes you need that perspective to understand where you are and the scale of a place. We'll go into the dunes tomorrow, but today we're just at the edge of the dune field. One group scours the area for artifacts, placing a red flag wherever they find one. The other group does a deeper excavation.
So we're recording all the data that we need to start the excavation, what kind of sediments they are, if we have material on the surface to start digging.
Estamos buscando las esquinas del pozo que se hizo la temporada pasada para a partir de ese trazar otros pozos de sondeo y ya hacer una cuadrícula más grande de donde se encontraron los elementos arqueológicos.
Often what archaeologists are doing is they're digging with brushes. So we joke about spending a lot of our lives sweeping dirt.
Every inch of the site that's excavated also has to be screened to make sure they're not missing bones or artifacts.
¿Y qué dice?
El hueso cuando se pega, pues, si lo pones aquí es hueso, pues si se pega es hueso, pues, ya.
Muy científico.
¿Ah? Y la piedra no.
Yeah, so we're looking for really small bones from rodents, from reptiles that you wouldn't be able to see in the bigger screens.
So as we're walking around out here, trying to imagine what this was like 1,000, 5,000, 10,000 years ago. It's just so arid now, but there must have been some sort of big playa filled with water and attracted animals out here, and people too.
There's so many layers of stories and narratives, human and non-human, geological, ecological, spiritual, and in the day-to-day, definitely in a data collecting mindset. But in the back of my mind is always the human story and, of course, the individual stories of the people who were here. And there's a sense of reverence for the items and the landscape that we're standing on.
Bueno, en primer lugar, pues me siento muy privilegiada de poder trabajar en este tipo de sitios porque realmente son los que tienen evidencia de los grupos más antiguos que han habitado este continente. Y aparte, pues realmente el lugar es impresionante. A mí me gusta mucho trabajar aquí porque la sierra, las dunas, me pone muy, muy, muy feliz. Y el solo hecho de estar aquí es una experiencia totalmente diferente porque estás alejada de la ciudad y además, pues acampar en un lugar como este realmente me pone muy, muy, muy contenta.
You know, scorpion fossils also luminesce.
Really?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
It's a structural glow.
Yeah, structural thing, yeah.
It seems like the best way to capture the feeling at night of being totally cut off from the rest of the world in this luminescent place is to take long exposure still photos and knit them together to create the illusion of movement. I sleep better out here than I have in over a year. It seems like a place where anxiety can't reach. All of the music you've been hearing is played by Robert. He's constantly serenading us.
The theme of plants leading us to amazingly cool archaeological places is a serious theme with this project. So this plant is this is the remnant I'm holding of sand food, or Philismus sonori, a truly incredible desert plant. This is a parasitic plant. So what happens is these plants have these roots that go deep into the sand below, and they're tapping in to these other perennial plants and parasitizing their moisture. So when this is fresh, these stems are about yay round, white, full of water, and it's earth water. It's this beautiful, earthy, deserty flavor to the water. So we came here because I wanted to see the fresh ones and found them. While I was doing so, Kayla and Jay got a little bored when I was freaking out after finding the sand food, and they dropped down into this bowl and then just started finding artifacts left and right. So I don't think it's coincidence at all that this really rare plant that is one of the most important food and water sources for people in the desert, the Achsed Atam, rely heavily on this plant for nourishment in the dune. I don't think it's any coincidence that this is a pretty robust population. We're finding them scattered all around this blowout, and the fact that this blowout has so many archaeological artifacts, I don't think it's a coincidence.
Robert tells me that these dunes are the Grand Canyon. He explains that the Colorado River eroded these grains off the sides of the canyon and carried them hundreds of miles to this area. On our final morning, Robert finds the largest scorpion yet and talks about how most of the animals we're encountering have probably never seen another human being. Before we leave, I'm asked to take the group picture. As a filmmaker, I'm always on the outside to some degree. But that lets me see these worlds I get to drop into with fresh senses. An archaeological expedition is an interpretive dance, and a flower is an old friend.